Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, May 15th, 2025. In celebration of the recently passed actor Wings Hauser, Len Kabasinski and I are going to do a special episode of the Forgotten Movie Den where I think we're covering 3 films, and I wanted to review one of them. I'm not going to review them all for our show. I want to save some of that for that episode. But I did want to talk about one in particular, which is 1988's Nightmare at Noon, which I don't think I'd ever actually watched in its entirety front to back before now. I think I'd seen it in kind of parts when it was on different movie channels, but hadn't actually sat down and watched it. So I rented it from Amazon, $4, well worth way more than that. And the movie stars, as I said, Wings Hauser, Bo Hopkins, and George Kennedy. And by coincidence, the gang over at Red Letter Media recently covered this movie, and I didn't even think about that when I watched this. And what they said I would largely agree with, although I think I have a more favorable view of this movie than maybe they did. So the movie, if I can get my words out, the premise is pretty simple. See, I put a P and S and a P really close together, and that was just a bad idea. I should also mention Brian James is in this movie, I think mostly because they wanted somebody who looks strange, because he may have uttered one word of dialogue throughout, but I'm not even sure that happened. So Brian James is in charge of some kind of foreign entity, as far as we know, a human foreign entity, because people have said he looks like he's supposed to be an alien, but there is nothing indicating that that's actually the fact. I think the movie just wants to make it clear that the scientist character is an albino, because I don't know why, but it does make him stand out. So we start off and Brian James goes to this little town, a sleepy little western town somewhere, and fires some kind of mutagen into their local water supply to run an experiment on the town. And then they sit back and they watch the results. And the results are basically that anybody who ingests the water within, I don't know, 24 to 72 hours, depending on how the movie's timeline goes, they turn into essentially the 28 days later type of zombie. So they're lunatics, and they have acid for blood, so they have green blood now. They've turned into Vulcans, I guess. And they run around just trying to cause general mayhem. They're not cannibals or anything, so not true zombies, but they just kind of run all over the place looking manic and wild and weird. And they're just shooting things up and smashing cars and killing each other. And for whatever this experiment is, they're watching this happen. It's never made clear what the experiment is supposed to be accomplishing. We're never even really sure who the Brian James gang works for. It's pretty evident they're not supposed to be Americans based on a line of dialogue, which is very funny, but it's never really defined what this is. However, it doesn't really matter, because what it results in is a movie that for 2/3 of its runtime is exceptionally fun, especially the middle, where basically the entire town has lost its mind and are just going insane, and it leaves Wings Hauser, Bo Hopkins, and George Kennedy trying to figure out what's going on, but a lot of it is just them running around trying to avoid getting killed and looking confused as to what's actually happening. And everything around them is just exploding. You've got mothers chasing after their kids with butcher knives trying to kill them. You've got motorcycles on fire flying through the air, all kinds of urban chaos, and it's magnificent. And if the movie had done more of that, or incorporated that into the ending, I think it would be a legitimate, unknown, little-known gem. The problem is that the third act, it's not that it's bad. The ending is not bad, but it transitions out of the city, and it's with a much smaller group of people. It's basically an extended chase sequence, sort of. And so it loses a lot of that manic power. And so again, it's not bad. I think the ending, although the ending is in a strange order in terms of what happens, I'll talk more in detail about it on Friday, but it does lose some of its steam by leaving this little town. And I think that's the only real fumble the movie makes. Not enough to say that it's a bad ending. It doesn't ruin the film. It is still a blast. But I could see this movie being remade, and fixing that ending would improve it so massively that I could actually see this being a really fun action flick without having to change much outside of that third act, outside of that ending. So I would still, for $4, I had a blast with this thing. I would recommend it to anybody who likes B movies, because it really is a legitimately good time. So again, 1988's Nightmare at Noon, $4. Go rent it right away. It's a lot of fun. Later.